It's funny, people will often say you got into this business, got your first California license when you were 18 and Nevada license at 19. What made you decide to do that? What inspired you? And it's kind of odd. When I got my driver's license at 16, I lived in California. And I know how it's very odd, but what I used to love to do on the weekend is go to open houses. I wasn't always greeted well because I was the 16-year-old that showed up in a Firebird wanting to see their house. But I would say, well, it's open to the public. I'd like to see it. And I can tell you that always fascinated me. Going as a young man, going and seeing these great houses and seeing the realtors' approaches. Some were very inviting and nice, and some not so nice. But growing up, I think probably one of the things that thrust me into it is my parents had a friend that was a real estate broker, and he was an independent. He had 3 or 4 offices. And he loved what he did, and he was the consummate salesperson. And my personality has always lent toward that. And I got to tell you, I knew from being a young man that real estate was what I wanted to do. And so at 19 years old, when I moved to Las Vegas and got started, interestingly enough, young people weren't in real estate back then. The average age of a realtor was in their mid-50s, and I was 19. And I remember interviewing, got my license immediately, and I remember interviewing with some of the top companies in town, and I was discouraged from getting into it. Some would say, well, we don't think you have what it takes, or, all of the discouragement. There was no encouragement. And I just decided for myself at this point that they didn't know who I was, and they didn't know what my abilities were. And maybe I was too stupid to know the difference. But I can tell you that from day one, getting into this business, I loved it. And so started at 19. By 22 years old, I was one of the leading agents with a company of 100. And this is back in the 80s when interest rates were in the teens. And, when you listen to people that say you can't, there's that inner voice that says you can, and that almost was my goal in proving them wrong. And I'm here to say I proved them wrong.